Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're doing a video we have not done in a long time for the Darkest Dungeon. We're going to be doing this real quick, doing a perfect reflection. As always, first I want to say thank you to all of my YouTube members and for everybody that contributes and watches this channel. It does take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you guys are amazing for everything you do. I can't thank you guys enough, and I do it for everybody who watches and supports the channel. So, pretty easy video. But without further ado, let's go. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to prime this thing in Corax white or whatever white you do have, just a very white base. Then using your wet palette or a well or whatever you got, we're going to use some medium, some acrylic medium, and we're going to use some Cadian Fleshtone and some pink horror in two different locations. And the reason why we're going to be doing this is we're going to be doing a wet blending between the skin that is on the top of the perfect reflection and the rest of the perfect reflection in the pink horror. If you need anything, check out the description below, and there's also a paint list as well. So the first thing we're going to be doing is covering most of this miniature in that pink. You don't have to be real careful with this. Just slap it on there. Get a big brush and slap it all over the place. Next, while that paint is still wet, and that's the purpose of the medium, it slows the drying time down tremendously. We are going to wet blend that face in with the pink and make a nice transition from the pink to the flesh color of the Cadian Fleshtone. Now you can tell that your pink is still wet because it does take a considerable amount more time to dry. We're going to take some of that black. I'm using Black Legion from Citadel. It is a contrast paint, and we're going to paint the black areas. And again, you're going to notice that that white sticks through. It gives you a natural highlight, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Cuts down the time we're going to need for highlights on that specific area. Next, for the inside of the mouth, we're going to use a little bit of Volopus Pink. If you want to use like a Balal red or a Flesh Terrors red on the inside, probably would look a little bit better than this. Again, those are contrast paints from Citadel. For the mouth of our perfect reflection and the mouth of the head on the perfect reflection, we're going to use a little bit of outlining of Black Legion on this as well. Now you're going to see the full picture here in a second. Take your time on this, and if you mess up, it's not a big deal. You can just go over it with your base paint. Not a big deal at all. For the teeth on the monster and then the head, we're going to use some Morghast Bone. Make sure you go on both sides of the tooth or the teeth as well, and don't overlook that spot. For the tongue at the top, we're going to use some Flesh Terrors red. Again, you can also use that for the inside of the perfect reflection. Probably would look a little bit better if you did that. And finally, for the hair on the guy, we're going to use some Rhinox Hyde just to give it some natural looking hair. Moving on to the wash step, we're going to take some Carroburg Crimson and put all over the pink areas. This is really going to make this thing stand out, especially when we put some highlights on it as well. For the flesh areas, we're going to use some Reikland Fleshshade. And for our little teeth, we're going to use some Agrax Earthshdade. Starting with the highlights, we're just going to do a reapplication of Pink Horror. Now again, we don't want to do it any of the recesses, we're just doing the raised areas, and you can pick and choose which areas you do. For the most part, I'm going to go over every raised areas with this specific one, and then we're going to do less and less each time with our highlight phases. Next color up on our highlights, we're going to use some Emperor's Children. Again, the same thing, we're not going overboard with this, we're just doing on the raised areas, making that nice gradient from dark pink to light pink. And for a final step, we're going to use a 50-50 mix of the Emperor's Children and Fulgrim Pink. And again, just going over some of the raised areas, not everywhere. Next, on the raised areas of the skin, we're going to use some Cadian Fleshtone. And to brighten up that skin tone just a little bit more, we're going to use some Kislev Flesh. Working on our teeth, we're going to do a reapplication on about 80% of each tooth of the Morghast Bone. Followed by about a 65% amount of each tooth of Ushabti Bone, and then about 35% of Screaming Skull on each tooth. You're making a gradient from really brownish to light brown, and then eventually do just a little bit of white on each tooth, and then white on the eyes, and you're going to see here in just a second as we cruise along. Just a quick little dollop to make a circle in each eye. Make sure you sit there and stare at it because there are a ton of eyes on there as well. And to give it that glossy eye effect, we're going to use some Ardcoat from a technical paint from Citadel, and that's going to give it that glossy look to make it look like eyeballs. And the last step, we're just going to paint the base in Mechanicus Standard Gray. Not going to do anything else with it. You can if you want, but I was done over it. And that is it. That is all she wrote. Turned out pretty dang good, in my opinion. Not a whole lot of steps. Really good looking. Looks fantastic on the table. And that's all we're really looking for. Just good enough to get on the table where your friend's like, oh man, that looks pretty good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you again for watching. If you are not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this thing as massively as we can to get as many followers as we can get to get this channel really popping. But thank you again, and I hope to see you on the next one. All right, paint on.